Arsenal are coming for them both. Tino Livramento and Morgan Rogers. To the Emirates? Let me ask you something straight away. What if I told you that Arsenal are quietly putting together one of the most exciting summer transfer windows we have seen in years? What if the club we love is about to bring in not one but two young English talents who could change the face of this team for the next decade? Would you believe me? Because based on what has been coming out over the last 24 to 48 hours, that is exactly what could be happening. Two names, two players, both aged 23, both English, both capable of becoming absolute top players at Arsenal. We are talking about Valentino Livramento from Newcastle United and Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa. And Gooners, I am not going to pretend this is just rumours. The reports are coming from credible sources. The BBC, The Telegraph, The Times. These are not random gossip accounts. These are serious football journalists telling us that Arsenal are in the mix for both of these players. So let us sit down, break all of this down properly, and talk about what this could mean for our club. Pull up a seat. This one is going to be a long and exciting read. Part 1. Tino Livramento and the right-back question. Let us start with the Livramento story, because this one has a very clear and obvious reason behind it. If you have been following Arsenal closely this season, you will already know that Benjamin White has been really important for us at right back. The man has been consistent, composed, and reliable. He is not the flashiest player in the world, but he does his job, and he does it well. However, football moves fast. Players get older. Contracts expire, situations change. So the question Arsenal are asking right now is this: who do we build the right-back position around for the next 5 to 10 years? And the name that keeps coming up is Valentino Livramento. Tino, as he is commonly called, is 23 years old and plays for Newcastle United. He is a right-back by position, and he has been one of the most talked about young defenders in the Premier League over the last couple of seasons. Quick, athletic, good going forward, and someone who has continued to improve with every year of professional football. At 23, he has his whole career ahead of him, and there is a genuine belief among people inside Arsenal that he has the profile to be a long-term solution at right back for this club. Now, here is what we know from the reports. According to the BBC, Arsenal have been very careful in how they are approaching this one. The club is apparently looking closely at Livramento's medical history before making any formal move. This tells you a few things. First, it tells you that Arsenal are serious. You do not go through the trouble of studying a player's medical records unless you genuinely intend to make a move. Second, it tells you that the club is being smart. They want to know exactly what they are getting before they put a big offer on the table. And we are talking about a big offer. The price that has been reported is 70 million euros. That is not cheap. That is a serious investment. But in the modern transfer market for a 23-year-old Premier League right back with years of development still ahead of him, that is actually not an outrageous figure either. Sporting director Berta has reportedly identified Livramento as the ideal long-term successor on the right side of Arsenal's defence. That is huge, Gooners. When your sporting director personally identifies someone as the long-term solution, that is not a casual conversation. That is a plan. That is a vision for the future. Now, there is an important twist to this story. According to reports, one of the factors that could make this deal happen is whether Newcastle qualify for the Champions League this season. Eddie Howe's side has had a difficult campaign, and if they miss out on Europe's top competition, there is a belief that they could be more willing to sell key players. Livramento is one of those players who could be made available if Newcastle need to balance their books or reset their squad. Think about that for a moment. Arsenal might be in a position where they are not just competing to sign a top player, but actually catching a situation where the selling club's circumstances work in their favour. But let me ask you this, Gooners. Do you think Tino Livramento is the right choice for Arsenal's right-back position? Is 70 million euros the right price? Or do you think the club should look elsewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know what the community thinks about this one. What Tino Livramento would bring to Arsenal. Let us talk football for a second. What would Livramento actually bring to this Arsenal team? At his best, Tino is the kind of right back that modern football demands. He is not just a defensive player who sits back and clears his lines. He is a player who can contribute going forward, who can overlap and provide width, and who has the pace and energy to get up and down the flank repeatedly. That profile fits exactly what Mikel Arteta wants from his fullbacks. We have seen Arteta use fullbacks in a really dynamic way. The idea is to get them high up the pitch, to create overloads on the sides, and to give the team extra attacking options while also being able to defend quickly when the ball is lost. Livramento has shown he can do this. At Newcastle, he has grown into a player who understands both sides of his responsibilities. He is also young enough that he still has room to grow. At 23, he is at the age where a player really hits their stride. The instincts are there, the physical attributes are there, and now with the right coaching and the right environment, a player at that age can take the next big step. Arsenal under Arteta is exactly the kind of environment where a player like Livramento could fulfill that potential. And here is the long-term thinking. If Arsenal sign Livramento this summer, they are potentially getting their right back for the next 8 to 10 years. You do not have to keep going back into the market every few seasons looking for a replacement. You find your player, you develop him, and you build around him. That is smart club building. Part 2. Morgan Rogers and the winger dilemma. Now let us move on to the second and in many ways even more exciting story of the two. Morgan Rogers, 23 years old, Aston Villa, attacking midfielder, winger, one of the hottest young talents in English football right now, and apparently Arsenal want him. According to The Telegraph, Morgan Rogers is currently considered the most sought-after Premier League player this summer. Let that sink in for a moment. Not one of the most sought-after, the most sought-after. The single player that clubs across Europe are looking at most closely as we head into the transfer window. And Arsenal are right there in the mix. The Telegraph reports that Arsenal are among the clubs interested in Rogers. But they are not the only ones. Manchester United are also mentioned as a club chasing his signature. This tells you that this is going to be a competitive situation. Arsenal will not just be able to walk in and sign Rodgers without a fight. They are going to have to move quickly, and they are going to have to make Rodgers feel like Arsenal is the right place for his career. Now let us talk about the money, because this one is not cheap either. Aston Villa are reportedly asking for a price of approximately 115 million euros for Rodgers. That is a significant figure. The Times has also reported that a fee of over £80 million was mentioned in their reporting, and Villa are said to be determined to get at least that amount because they owe 20% of any profit from the sale back to Middlesbrough, his former club. So Villa are motivated to get the best possible deal. They will not sell cheap, and they know that clubs are desperate to have this player. But here is the context that makes this story even more interesting. According to the Times, Aston Villa may actually be forced to sell Rodgers this summer, not because they want to, but because of financial pressures. The report described selling Rodgers as one of the most straightforward ways for Villa to ease their financial situation and avoid potential rule breaches. That is a significant piece of information. What it means is that Villa might be sellers, whether they like it or not. And if they are going to sell, Arsenal wants to be at the front of the queue. Let me ask you this, though. Is 115 million euros the right price for Morgan Rogers? Arsenal have already spent big in recent windows. Can the club afford to spend that kind of money on a winger while also trying to sign Livramento? Or should they prioritise one over the other? Tell me what you think. Who is Morgan Rogers and why does everyone want him? If you have not been watching Aston Villa closely this season, then you might be wondering what all the fuss is about. So let me paint you a picture of this player. Morgan Rogers is not your typical English winger. He is not just someone who runs fast and crosses the ball. He is a footballer in the truest sense of the word. He is clever, technical, and has a real football brain. He can play across the front line, not just in one fixed position. And that versatility is one of the big reasons why clubs like Arsenal and Manchester United are so excited about him. The Telegraph report mentions that his versatility and his willingness to play in different positions across the front line make him more appealing to elite clubs. That is exactly the kind of player Arteta loves. Arteta wants footballers who can understand multiple roles, who can shift and adapt depending on what the team needs in a given moment. Rodgers has shown at Villa that he can do all of that. He has been a consistent performer for Unai Emery's side, and he has earned the trust of his manager. Interestingly, despite all the transfer noise around him, the Telegraph also reports that Rodgers has no intention of forcing a transfer because he has a strong and excellent relationship with Aston Villa and Emery. That shows you the kind of character this boy has. He is not making demands. He is not throwing his toys out of the pram. He is a professional who respects the club he plays for even while the world talks about him leaving. That is the kind of character Arsenal need in their dressing room. The Trossard and Martinelli question. Now here is where things get really interesting and honestly a little bit complicated. If Arsenal were to sign Morgan Rodgers, what happens to the players already at the club? The Telegraph report specifically mentions that the futures of Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli are uncertain. It also says that Eberechi Eze has only impressed the club sporadically, and the Times report adds that if Rodgers moved to Arsenal, either Trossard or Martinelli would likely be displaced from the team. This is the conversation that Arsenal fans need to have right now, because we are not just talking about adding a player. We are talking about potentially reshaping the entire attacking unit. Martinelli has been at Arsenal for several years now, and there was a time when it felt like he was going to be a long-term pillar of this team. But his form has been inconsistent, and there are clearly people inside the club who are questioning whether he is the long-term answer on the left side. Trossard has been a really useful player for us, versatile and reliable. But again, at his age and with his contract situation, nothing is guaranteed. If Arsenal bring in Rodgers and he takes that attacking midfield or left-wing role, somebody has to make way. That is just how football works. And the club clearly believes Rodgers is at a level above what they currently have in those positions. But I want to ask you, Gooners, would you be sad to see Martinelli or Trossard leave if it meant bringing in Rodgers? Is this the right moment to make that change? Or do you think Arsenal should find a way to keep everyone and build an even bigger and better squad? Because the depth question is real. You need players who can cover multiple positions throughout a long and demanding season. The bigger picture, Arsenal building for the future. Let us zoom out for a moment and think about what this all means at a bigger level. Arsenal are a club that has been building something special under Mikel Arteta. Over the last few seasons, we have watched this team grow from being entertaining but not quite good enough into a genuine title contender. We have had some heartbreaking moments when the title slipped away. We have had incredible nights in European football. We have watched young players develop into real stars. But to get to the next level, to actually win the Premier League title, to go deep in the Champions League, Arsenal need to keep investing and keep improving. Standing still is not an option when you are competing with the resources of Manchester City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. Bringing in Livramento and Rodgers would be a statement of real serious intent. It would be Arsenal saying to the rest of the league, we are not satisfied with what we have built. We are going to keep pushing. We are going to keep improving. Both players are 23 years old. Both are English. Both have years and years of development ahead of them. If Arsenal can secure both of these signings, they would be adding real quality and real depth to the squad in positions where improvements can be made. The right-back position has a clear succession plan with Livramento ready to step in as the long-term answer. The attacking areas get a massive boost with Rodgers, who can unlock defenses in ways that could give Arteta's team a different and more dangerous dimension going forward. This is modern football thinking. This is what the best clubs in the world do. They do not just buy for the present, they buy for the future. They find players who are going to grow and improve and become even better. And that is exactly what Livramento and Rodgers represent. Will it actually happen? Now, let us be real with each other for a moment, because I know some of you are reading this and thinking, this all sounds amazing, but is it actually going to happen? And honestly, nothing in football is guaranteed until the pen hits the paper and the announcement comes out. Transfers fall through, players change their minds, clubs cannot agree on fees, medical issues come up, life happens. For Livramento, the key factors are going to be whether Newcastle miss out on Champions League football, how the medical checks go, and whether Arsenal are willing to pay that 70 million euro price. All of those things have to line up. For Rodgers, the competition from Manchester United is real and significant. United are a massive club with massive resources, and they too are looking for quality in attacking positions. If Rodgers has to choose between Arsenal and United, which way does he go? Does the project under Arteta attract him more? Does he see a clearer path to regular first-team football at Arsenal? These are the questions that will determine how that story develops. The price is also a major factor. 115 million euros for Rodgers plus 70 million euros for Livramento means you are potentially talking about over 180 million euros in one summer on two players. That is a huge commitment. Arsenal have shown in recent windows that they are willing to spend big when they believe in a player, but this would still be a statement level of investment. What do you think, Gooners? Do you think Arsenal will get both done, or will we miss out on one of them? Which one would you rather have if you could only choose one? What the community should be watching over the next few weeks as we head towards the summer window. Here are the key things to keep an eye on. Watch Newcastle's results carefully. If they slip up and miss out on Champions League qualification, that changes everything for the Livramento story. The likelihood of him being available goes up significantly, and Arsenal will be ready to pounce. Watch the noise around Morgan Rodgers very carefully. When clubs are genuinely interested, the number of reports tends to increase, and they start to include more specific details about personal terms and negotiations. If we start hearing about Arsenal having conversations with Rodgers' representatives or agreeing personal terms, that is when you know things are getting serious. Also, watch for any news about Martinelli or Trossard. If there are reports suggesting either player is open to a move or that Arsenal are willing to listen to offers for them, that would be a strong signal that Rodgers is coming in. And keep an eye on what Berta says and does, because as sporting director, he is the man driving this. He identified Livramento personally, and his fingerprints will be on the Rodgers pursuit too. Berta has been a real upgrade for Arsenal in terms of how they identify and pursue transfer targets. He thinks carefully, he moves precisely, and he does not waste the club's time or money on players who are not genuinely the right fit. The final word. Gooners, we are living in exciting times for this club. The combination of Livramento and Rodgers in the same summer window would be one of the most significant Arsenal transfer windows in recent memory. Not just because of the fees involved, but because of what it would mean for the direction of the club. Livramento securing the right back position for the next decade. Rodgers adding a new creative dimension to an attack that already has some real weapons. Two 23-year-old English players who are hungry, talented, and at the perfect age to grow into world-class performers under Arteta. This is the Arsenal we have been waiting for. A club that does not just react, but plans. A club that does not just sign players to fill gaps, but identifies exactly the right profiles to build a title-winning team. A club that is serious about competing with the very best in Europe. Are there risks? Of course. The fees are large. The competition is real. Nothing is guaranteed. But the fact that Arsenal are in this position, being talked about as the destination for some of the most coveted players in English football, tells you everything about how far this club has come under Arteta and Berta. We could be looking back at this summer as the moment Arsenal truly announced themselves as a dominant force for years to come. Or we could miss out and go back to the drawing board. That is football. That is the beautiful game. But right now, right this moment, the signs are exciting. The reports are credible. The ambition is real. And as always, Gooners, whatever happens, we trust in the process. We trust in Arteta. We trust in this club that we love. Come on, you Reds. Let me know in the comments below which of these two signings you want most. Livramento, the right back, or Rodgers, the attacking wizard. And if Arsenal only get one this summer, who should it be? I will be reading every single comment and getting back to you all. Until next time, this has been Bella Gooner TV. Stay loyal, stay loud, stay Gooner.